Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
Hey everyone, today's episode contains some graphic descriptions of an alleged sexual assault. Listener discretion is advised. As an offensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles, Josh Sills was only a week away from playing in the 2023 Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. For a rookie who made it onto the Eagles as a free agent, it was a dream come true. But a week away from the big game, on January 31st, 2023, it all came crashing down.
And here's what we know so far. 25-year-old offensive guard Josh Sills was indicted by a grand jury in Guernsey County, Ohio, on 1 count of rape and 1 count of kidnapping.
The indictment, in an Ohio county about 90 miles east of Columbus, accused Josh Sills of raping and kidnapping a woman on December 5th, 2019. The victim, referred to in the indictment by the initials MM, said Josh drove her to a friend's house after a night out. He then trapped her in his truck, it said, and forced her to perform a sex act on him before letting her go. MM reported the incident to police the day after it happened, according to the indictment. At the time, 4 years earlier, Josh Sills was a student playing football for West Virginia University. He and MM had known each other for 7 or 8 years by the time the alleged assault took place. Almost immediately, Josh was placed on the NFL's commissioner exempt list, keeping him from practicing, playing, or traveling with the Eagles to the Super Bowl. Heading back to Ohio for his arraignment, Josh cooperated with the investigation and provided DNA when asked. On today's episode, we're reviewing the state of Ohio versus Josh Sills and taking a look at the testimony and evidence presented in court. This is Jillian in partnership with Law and Crime. You are listening to Court Junkie, episode 268. Although the alleged assault took place in 2019, it took until 2023 to get to trial. One of the challenges? In the rural Ohio county where the incident was said to have occurred, it was difficult to find people who weren't connected to either the accused or to the victim. Even a high-ranking law enforcement official was reportedly a close relative of the victim, and so the case was handed over to the Attorney General's office. In August 2023, the trial finally began, starting with an exhaustive jury selection process. Over 100 potential jurors were brought in, many of them with personal connections to Josh Sills in Guernsey County. One was on the coaching staff where Josh played football in high school. One woman said her cousin had previously dated him, and others went to school with him or knew someone who had. When the trial started, the opening statements were fairly cut and dry. Both prosecuting attorney Eric Spitzer and defense attorney Michael Connick spoke for almost an identical length of time, about 10 minutes each. Both agreed that there was a sex act in Josh Sills' pickup truck on December 5th, 2019. But while the prosecution said it was forcible rape, the defense told the jury it was just consensual sex. After a night out drinking, Josh offered MM and her friends a ride to her cousin's house to spend the night. When they reached their destination, everyone but MM and Josh left the car. MM told her cousin she'd be in a minute. This is where the defense and the prosecution stories significantly diverge. According to prosecutors, Josh then restrained MM and wouldn't let her out of the truck, repeatedly pushing her head down and forcing her to go down on him. The defense said that it didn't happen like that this was consensual. In his opening statements, Prosecutor Spitzer went over the charges with the jury and what they would need to know about certain legal definitions in this case. He said the first charge was rape. He told them they're going to hear allegations that Josh forced the mouth of his victim over his penis again and again. He said when people think about rape, they think of vaginal penetration, but it doesn't have to include that. He said they wouldn't be hearing about vaginal penetration in this case, but fellatio, which he said is still sexual conduct that falls under rape. And penetration, however slight, he said is sufficient. He said force or threat of force can mean a lot of things. Folks might think force is physically holding someone down, and it is, but he said it isn't just that. It can also be psychological. As for the second charge, he said when people think of kidnapping, they may think of someone being tied up in the back of a trunk with duct tape. Sure, that's kidnapping, he said, but there are a lot of ways you can be kidnapped, where the victim is not free to leave. He said as Josh drove MM and some friends home that night, he grabbed her leg. He said in the moment, MM didn't know how to react. But as Josh continued to do it, she became concerned. Things then escalated when she was alone with him in the truck. He told the jury that witness testimony and photographs will show that the prosecution has proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt, and that Josh Sills is guilty of rape. You were just told a very interesting story. Very interesting. Josh's attorney, Michael Connick, told the jury when it was his turn. You were also told a story that's been fabricated. He said in 2019, MM first said she was choked 3 times and never lost consciousness. Then, as of July 8, 2023, she said she was choked 10 times and lost consciousness. Which story do you believe? He asked. He said what the police did in this case wasn't an investigation. Everyone who was there that night had a cell phone. None of the cell phones were evaluated or extracted, he said. And Josh's truck was never searched, never impounded, and there was never any analysis of any trace evidence there may have been. He said MM claimed Josh pulled her hair, and that hair came out. Where do we think that hair might be? He asked. No one ever checked for blood. She had said she had a cut on her leg. Or semen. She said she had spit out his semen. He said no measurements were ever taken of the vehicle either. Connick pulled out a white 3-ring binder and held it up. This is the evidence the state of Ohio gave us in support of their case, he said. What's interesting is what's not in there. He said, there isn't even a police report to put in front of you folks. He told the jury the investigator in the case also never retrieved any videos from the bars the group was at prior to the alleged assault. Oh, he tried to get it, he said, in December of 2020, a year later, but the video didn't exist anymore. He said Josh being arrested and charged for this was retaliatory, and that it came years later, only after Josh achieved a modicum of success when he was signed by the Philadelphia Eagles. He asked why they would wait so long to charge him when they had the same evidence the entire time. He said Josh was also never brought in for questioning at that time either. The prosecution immediately began calling witnesses who were present on the night of December 5th, 2019. Before we dive into testimony, a note for listeners on Ohio courtroom procedures. Witnesses can choose to conduct their testimony on or off camera, which means some witness testimonies from both the prosecution and defense weren't recorded for public record. MM, for example, testified, but not on the public record. First to the stand was MM's cousin, Brianna Woods. She recalled an uncomfortable moment on the ride home that night. Josh and MM were both in the front seat. MM was in the middle seat and Josh was driving. and Josh started grabbing MM's leg.
Why didn't you guys say anything to Josh when he was grabbing the leg? Why wasn't there something said about it?
I'm not sure. I thought she just nudged me because it was an not uncomfortable, but awkward situation.
Brianna testified that she fell asleep in the truck, only waking up when they were in front of her home.
I got out of the truck to go inside, and I held the door open for MM, and she said she would be into the house in a minute. Didn't look at her. I just shut the door, went inside, and fell asleep.
She said the next thing she remembers is seeing MM in the morning.
Waking up the next morning to MM laying next to me upset.
Brianna testified that MM told her what had happened. She was told not to get into specifics during her testimony.
Did you ever have discussions with MM about what happened in the truck?
I did.
Do you remember when you had those discussions?
That morning.
She said she and MM also discussed what had happened with Brianna's mom the following night. She was asked if she advised MM to do anything, and she said her mom did. On cross-examination, Josh's attorney, Michael Connick, questioned Brianna about the details of that evening, some of which were foggy after a night of drinking. She testified that Josh bought them fireball shots at the bar, and then they went outside.
And then when you're leaving the bar that night, you're outside and both you and MM expose your breast. Is that correct?
We did.
Okay. And was that something that was funny to you?
It was.
Okay. Do
Yes.
you think about it now? Do you think that was a good idea in the middle of December to be?
No.
Is that something that you've done on other occasions?
No.
Okay. So, what about your friend Brooke? Did she see you guys doing that, flashing?
Not that I can remember.
All right. Now, also in that bar that you were in, the parking lot, you come outside, it's not a very big parking lot, right?
No.
Okay, and everybody's talking outside about where they're going or saying goodnight to each other, is that correct?
Yes.
And MM, she's appropriate, other than having something to drink, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And did you have any concerns for her safety?
No.
Did you have any concerns for her judgment?
No.
Okay. And she's responsible in the decisions that she makes as to who she wants to be with, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, how far did MM advance this notion in her mind that she'd like to beat up or hook up or get with Josh? How did that advance in that bar?
I don't recall anything going on in the bar other than flashing. Yes, I don't recall any touching or anything going on in.
Was there any kissing?
Not that I can remember.
Do you recall talking with the detective concerning whether or not there was any type of kissing going on between MM and Josh?
I don't.
He then went over how MM and Brianna got into Josh's car.
You get into Josh's truck, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and where do you choose to sit in that truck?
I was in the back seat at first, and then I got in the front seat.
Okay. And in the back seat is this Damon Carpenter as well. Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay. So it's you and Damon in the back, and it's MM and Josh in the front. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you saw MM jump into the truck, didn't you? You saw her get into the truck,
Yes.
right? And she got into the front seat. Is that correct?
Yes.
And she pulled up the divider between to scoot over right over next to Josh. Isn't that correct?
She was sitting in the middle. I don't recall a divider or anything.
Okay.
But yes.
And this is a bench seat, right?
Yes.
Not a bucket seat. A bench seat, right?
Yes.
And did it have a fold-down console between it?
I don't remember.
Do you recall when you were, did there be discussions with the detective when you were talking about what you observed going on inside the truck? As to how MM got into the truck and how she scooted over next to him?
Yes.
All right. So when she chose to scoot over next to him or to get close to Josh, you were already in the back of the back seat. So she could have gone all the way over onto the passenger side and hugged that side window, the side panel. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Right. And it wasn't Josh who pulled her back over or dragged her over that she had to sit next to him. Is that correct?
I don't think so, no.
It was her decision as to where she was going to sit.
Yes.
Is that right?
Brooke Bing, another one of MM's friends, was also among the first to hear what had happened. She, too, had been out with Josh, Brianna, and other friends that night. When got inside Brianna's home, she asked Brooke to come meet her. Brooke said when she got to Brianna's room, where was very distraught and upset.
When she came in and you went into her room, what did she tell you?
Rounds? Response?
Excited utterance, Your Honor.
I believe it would be an excited utterance. Objections overruled. You may continue.
What did the question was, or the request was, what did tell you when she came into Bree's room and you went in there?
She said that Josh raped her.
Okay, who was she referring to?
Josh Sills.
While visibly crying on the stand, Brooke relayed in detail what had told her that night.
Can you go into detail of what she said?
She said that he forced her head down onto his penis. And she said when I pulled up in the driveway, he held her down on his penis, and she couldn't breathe. And she tried hard to fight back. And she said that he tried to unzip her pants and physically sexually assault her the other way vaginally, but she got away. She said she had some strength that came over top of her, and she got out of the truck.
Brooke said she not only listened to but also saw what she believed to be evidence of an assault.
And then she showed me the marks from where his hands was holding her down on her legs, on her inner thighs.
She said she comforted and was there for her.
And I told her not to take a shower or anything like that, because it could possibly wipe away DNA evidence, and not to drink anything, because I asked her if he had ejaculated in her mouth, and she said yes. So that's why I told her not to drink anything. I told her, you need to go to the hospital and get a rape kit done and go make a police report at the sheriff's department. And she was nervous to do that because she felt like nobody would believe her.
Okay. Was she intoxicated at this point?
No.
Was she intoxicated when you saw her when she was leaving Star Bar?
No, she was stable.
Okay. Had she been drinking, though?
Yes, not a lot.
When you were comforting what was her reaction?
She was crying a lot and was getting very choked up, and it took her a minute to tell me what happened.
She said ended up going to the sheriff's department the following morning. On cross, she said never told her that she and Josh had kissed consensually earlier in the night. She said also never said anything about having been strangled. After Brooke's testimony, the judge ruled on a motion that had been filed prior from the defense about further evidence the prosecution had been planning on presenting. The judge ruled that he would not allow prosecution witness Leslie Dorfleur, a sexual assault nurse, to testify using enhanced photos from MM's exam. When we say enhanced photos, it means a UV light or other filter that was used during photography, which could help the bruising appear more visible. You'll see this in cases where bruising is evident, but due to lighting, pigmentation, or positioning on the body, it doesn't show up as well when photographed. According to the prosecution and their witness, the enhanced photos of MM's neck more clearly showed signs of strangulation. But instead of showing these images, Dorfleur instead testified using untouched photos. She told the jury that MM's examination showed signs of strangulation and rough play, including a cut on her lip, as well as bruising on her cheek and ear. These injuries could be consistent with the assaults MM had described, which included details such as being strangled 10 times to the point where she lost consciousness briefly. During cross-examination, Josh's attorney pointed out that MM's mother, who also worked as a nurse, knew Leslie Doerfler. Doerfler agreed that MM's mom had called her before she took MM to the hospital, and that she told her that her daughter had been sexually assaulted. She also said she didn't recall telling an officer that she didn't see any marks on the front of MM's neck when she examined her. But after being shown the body camera footage during a break, she agreed that that's what she had said. Another prosecution witness, a DNA expert, testified that Josh's DNA was a match with a major contributor profile found on MM's neck. The prosecution's final witness was lead investigator, Detective Aaron Coulter, with the Guernsey County Sheriff's Office. He testified that MM's account had changed over the years, including her now saying that she had been flirting with Josh and that she had consensually kissed him in the truck. But he also said that MM withdrew her consent as soon as she told Josh to stop. He testified that the best evidence they had were the injuries to her body. When the defense began their case, they called Franklin County Deputy Coroner Andrea McCollum to the stand. McCollum testified that there was no evidence to support MM's claims of having been strangled. She told the jury that if Josh, a 325-pound, 6'6" football player, had choked MM, there would have been clear signs of it, such as petechiae or tiny hemorrhaging. Attorney Michael Connick presented McCollum with an outline of Josh's hand on a piece of paper and asked her to put her hand inside of it. Josh's hand was significantly larger.
There's an outline of his hand. It's a pretty big hand. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
You want to put your hand over that and demonstrate the difference, or just show it up to the jury? You can see that.
My hand.
Okay. He's a big man. Is that right?
Yes.
And you'd expect with hands like that, if he was causing 10 applications of force or strangulation to this young girl, as she's testified to and is reported, that you would expect to find evidence of injury. Is that a fair inference?
If she lost consciousness, yes.
She said in her opinion, it sounded like Leslie Doerfler was looking for evidence to corroborate her claim. Prosecuting attorney Eric Spitzer's closing arguments directly called out the defense and their strategy to cast the night of December 5th as fun and consensual. He touched on Brianna Wood's testimony first.
He gets into the truck, Damon Carpenter's with them, the defendant's driving, MM is in the front. And again, trust your own recollection, but state recalls MM may have been in the middle of the truck. And it's not a bucket seat, it's a bench seat. I messed that up in my testimony. It's a bench seat. So, they drop Damon Carpenter off, and it's just the two girls and the defendant. Brownie's in the front seat. Again, relatively intoxicated at this point, understandably, given how their day was. And is either awoken or recognizes MM trying to get her attention. And why is she trying to get her attention? Because the defendant is grabbing her leg. And they laugh about it. Maybe the term is giggle a little bit. Now, on paper, that reads strange. In hindsight, one would think, oh my God, that's not okay. Why is he acting that way? But use your common experience and put yourself in that perspective and how you act. It's been pretty clear the defendant didn't have some history of being a bad guy. He was at least an acquaintance of these people. Sure, it's strange, but what are you going to do in that moment? You didn't get a ride from a stranger. It's not an Uber driver. In that moment, Doesn't just laughing about it kind of make sense?
Prosecutor Spitzer continued, explaining MM's actions that night.
She acknowledges Snapchat conversations with the defendant, acknowledges being out with them, acknowledges going to RJ's with them. And you know why? Because nothing's happening then. That's not when the rape's happening. Those things are fine. It's okay to meet up with the defendant at the bar. It's okay to meet with Josh Sills there. It's okay to potentially think about getting with somebody. It's okay to take a shot of Fireball. While it might not be the best judgment, it's okay to flash somebody. What of those things is an invitation to rape somebody? The state would submit that none of those things are.
He said where MM sat in Josh's truck was not an indication of consent.
You can sit as close as you want to somebody, and that doesn't give them the right to rape you.
Prosecutor Spitzer then went over MM's injuries.
50% of sexual assault cases don't have any injury at all. Oftentimes, strangulation shows no injury at all. It's very common in sexual assault cases for jurors to think, there's got to be an injury, I got to see something, I got to see more. Folks, you can have it with no injury.
He also addressed the length of time that had gone by since this had made it to trial.
Now, there's a funny part of this case. It's 2023. This happened in 2019. You might be wondering, what's the delay here? What was the holdup? Why is it taking so long? Folks, MM immediately reported this. There was no gap in time. Nothing. And anything you hear contrary to that is incorrect.
He reminded the jury of their criteria for guilt.
But folks, the state doesn't have to prove this case beyond all doubt. Just reasonable doubt.
Defense attorney Steve Deaver gave the closing arguments on behalf of the defense. He said Leslie Dorfleur had actually only gone into work that night because MM's mom, who was her friend, had called her. She's trying to be helpful, he said. He told the jury that he wasn't saying she was corrupt or skewed the evidence, but that she did her exam based on junk science and that she cut corners that she had to follow.
It's not like, well, I'm only going to take, if the literature says you're to do 9 photographs of the eyes, upper and lower, different views, then that's what you do. You do 9. You don't just do 2. If the literature says, and the standard of care for the science itself says, if you have subtle observations that you think perhaps may be bruising or injury, you bring her back 2 days later. You bring her back 4 days later. And you get that evidence. You confirm what you believe was there. That wasn't done. Those are corners that were cut.
He also pointed to Josh's truck, which he reiterated was never impounded for evidence.
Why doesn't he get the truck impounded? Why don't we get the BCI van out here to come out here and process that as a crime scene? Are there hairs in there? Is there evidence of struggle in there? Is there a broken radio knob? Is there prints and footprints on the dashboard? There's a number of things. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, how big is the interior of the cab? Because if you've looked at Josh over the past few days, it's clear to anybody who takes a look at him, he's a big man. And he's wearing that seat in that truck. He's tight in there. And between in that driver's seat, he's got that steering wheel. He's got a horn right there. He's got a stick shift on the floor, all of that. And you needed to get photographs of that, folks. And you needed to, in order to make your determination and to have confidence in this investigation, they needed to have that truck processed. And that wasn't done.
He also pointed to a lack of digital evidence, including alleged Snapchat messages exchanged between MM and Josh.
The detective knew, he knew about the cell phones immediately. Didn't get them, didn't gather them up. You could have got The Snapchats could have been collected immediately to give you a better picture of what happened and how this conversation unwound on the day following this incident. What was talked about between the girls? What did they communicate to? Who else was getting involved in this? Well, we'll never know, folks.
He told the jury, "We will also never know what happened inside the bars with Josh and MM before this alleged assault took place, because the detective chose not to get the surveillance video until a year later, and it was gone." He said there were other witnesses that night, too, who were never interviewed.
None of interviews with these the boys that were with them that night, especially when it goes to Justin Ayers, who was dropped off, who pulled up in the truck when this was taking place, this incident. Not even interviewed. Hey, did you see anything? Could you tell that there were people in the truck? Could you tell the positions of the folks that were in the truck? Could you tell what they were doing? Did you talk about it? Did you Snapchat and say something like, "Oh, it looks like MM and Josh are getting together. They're hooking up." But we don't have cell phones. We don't have interviews. We don't have any of that information. But there's nothing to see here, folks. We're just going to keep on going.
He said when MM was interviewed, her advocate was there with her, participating and acting like a junior detective.
The sanctity of the investigation must be protected. You cannot allow it to be contaminated with persons who are not law enforcement. We have to have confidence that the police, when they do their investigations, it's free of interference and distraction from others. That didn't happen here, folks. The relationships that exist between the sheriff's office, the investigation, the victim, her stepfather, all of those things raise the issue to conflict of interest. Sheriff's office, sheriff could have called over to the county prosecutor and asked him, "Hey, I see you're getting off this case. Don't you think we should get off this case too?" No, they made the decision. We don't have any conflicts. We're taking this case. We're confident we're going to do a good job. We're going to do a complete and thorough job. So when you go back and you put it up on the board, question, did the law enforcement do a complete and thorough job?
Deaver also gave out some other possible theories for what happened that night, using testimony from MM's friend, Brooke. On cross, he had asked her about how Josh had dated MM's stepsister, Taylor, back in high school.
They did not see any injuries to the head, and also that Josh and MM's stepsister, Taylor, dated in high school, and that they were on again, off again. And then there were questions concerning whether or not there was incidents in which Josh and MM were sneaking around behind the back of Taylor. Okay? It's a pretty convoluted story about how things in high school travel a couple of years later. They're all 20, 21 years of age, but those memories and what of high school apparently carried on.
He said there were also discrepancies with how drunk MM allegedly was that night. MM says she wasn't and only had a glass of wine and then 2 beers. But another one of her friends had said she was super intoxicated. He said there were a number of inconsistencies with MM's story, from what she told police to what she told medical staff and to what she told the jury.
We know that, first of all, when this case was originally investigated, that she was pulled back into that truck, that she was grabbed and restrained of her liberty at that point in time. When she gets on the witness stand, "I'll be in a minute." That's what her response is. And then she is observed kissing Josh. Didn't appear to be non-consensual, appeared to be that they were doing something inside the truck. When her friend left the truck, she told you, "I had no concern that she was in trouble. I had no concern that she was in danger." And she went on and inside to the house.
He said MM was worried about her friends talking about her hooking up with Josh, her stepsister's ex-boyfriend. He said MM also had a boyfriend of her own.
And more importantly, her friends see her in a different light. Is she the moral person that they thought she was? Is she a true to her values? Well, apparently this lapse in judgment of hooking up with Josh doesn't look good for MM as far as whether or not she's that type of person. And with the Snapchats and the discussions and all of that, it would be very, very soon after that occurred that they're going to be communicating on the phones, and it's eventually going to make its way over to Taylor and eventually going to make its way over to the boyfriend. And that puts MM in a very, very difficult situation. Very difficult situation. She gets out of that truck and she has remorse because she knows that she's been found out and that she's made mistakes here. And because of her drunkenness, perhaps of her interest in Josh, that she decides voluntarily to stay in that truck and to hook up with him, to start kissing him. So then she tells you on the witness stand, folks, exactly why she makes these accusations. She doesn't want to be the person who cries wolf. She's the girl who cries wolf, ladies and gentlemen. When she comes into that house, she has to give an explanation because she's recognized and is devastated by the fact that she met up with Josh and got in that truck, and now everybody's going to be talking about her getting around and cheating on the boyfriend and all of that. That's a theory in this case, ladies and gentlemen, that can be reconciled with what the evidence is. And it's a theory that demonstrates to you, ladies and gentlemen, that there is doubt here.
He said MM's story snowballed out of control.
There's sufficient doubt here as far as MM being truthful and complete, and the various versions of events that she's given, you can't rely upon. You can be sympathetic that the life that she was living at that time was not the best for her, that the use of alcohol and the drinking, the partying, the nights of incoherency, all of that are troubled teenage years that a lot of people, most of us, get through those kind of things and go on, but some get stuck in that moment. And they end up in very, very challenging lives with very, very many different kinds of issues as far as trauma and having difficulty with relationships, as well as, ladies and gentlemen, having continuing issues and cycles about making dumb decisions, okay? You can't rely on her. That fact that she came in here and told you that a few weeks ago she finally disclosed that she was strangled 10 times, she was choked 10 times, and she blacked out, that blows this whole thing up. It blows it up. You can't rely on her. If she's going to tell you that now, why is she telling you that now? Because she needs to embellish. She needs to add. She understands that it's not all these questions have been answered to the satisfaction, and that there is some level of responsibility as far as in participating in what transpired in that truck.
Deliberations began later that day. The jury reached a verdict before the end of the fourth day of the trial. Deliberating for just 3 hours, they delivered the verdict to an almost silent courtroom. Josh, who did not testify, looked forward stoically, even after the verdict was read.
We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, do find the defendant, Joshua Matthew Sills, not guilty of the offense of rape in violation of RC 2907.02A2 as charged in count 1 of the indictment.
And then the kidnapping charge.
We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, do find the defendant, Joshua Matthew Sills, not guilty of the offense of kidnapping.
After the verdict was read, Josh spoke to the court.
I'd like to say thank you for everything that you have done, for paying attention, doing your due diligence, and listening to the testimonies. Judge Bowden, I'd like to thank you for everything you have done. I'd like to thank my family who have supported me from day one. I've done nothing wrong. I'm glad that was proven today. So thank you again.
The Ohio Attorney General released a statement afterwards, saying, "I still believe the victim, but in America, criminal convictions require proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The jury did not see it, and I thank them for doing their duty under the law." Following the acquittal, Josh Sills was removed from the NFL commissioner's exempt list, allowing him to play football once again. As of this recording, he now plays for the Indianapolis Colts. And that's all for this episode. As always, I'd love to know what you think about this case. Let me know by joining the conversation on Instagram at CourtJunkie, by tweeting us at CourtJunkiePod, or by emailing us at podcast@courtjunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Emma Diehl, with additions by me, Jillian Jalali. Matt Stroud and I edited. If you'd like to hear these episodes without the ads and hear additional Court Junkie bonus episodes, check out our Patreon options by going to courtjunkie.com/support. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.